Alright, we're going to try something different. I'm using my DSLR rather than my phone because I went swimming my phone last night and it's dead. So I have to get a new phone. So this should be actually a much better video because it's better lenses, better light, and all that stuff. So we're going to give it a shot. I usually don't use this because it's a little more work, but we're going to give it a shot. I just have to make sure that every 30 minutes, I can only, on the card I have, I can only record about 30 minutes at a time. So yesterday we did the jeans and the wife beater, and those both look good. So today we're going to work on the belt and the boots. So the first thing I'm going to do is the belt. Let's get this all taken apart and put to the side. If I get those done, I can glue him together. Alrighty. We have to start using this camera more because it's got a lot more features than my phone does. Okay. Let's get our palette here. Get some burnt umber out here. I'm going to base coat it in this. And I'm just going to use it straight. I probably won't record the whole process of base coating because I think you get the idea. Just going to go in here and so this is burnt umber. Oh, that's the belt buckle. It doesn't get painted that color. It looks like part of the belt, part of the leather. I can't tell. Oh, no, it is part of the leather. Okay. It is. Do the belt buckle last. Again, I got some Q-tips here in case I get paint on the jeans. So I can wipe it off quickly. Just got to paint around all the belt loops and everything. I'm going to turn off autofocus. 1 second. There we go. Let's see how that works. Again, I'm not going to record this whole process because it's just doing this, just base coating the belt. So I'm going to do this and then we'll come back. Alrighty, so I got that base coated and now I'm going to go and I'm going to do a wash on this. I want to darken it down a little bit before I start doing any dry brushing. And I'm going to use this Starship wash from Ammo. This is an enamel wash, so I've got to let this dry for a little bit. So I'm just going to take a brush here. I like this because it's got a little bit of brown and green in it. And we're just kind of, this may not be dark enough. Maybe something darker, let's see. Yeah, it's not quite what I'm doing, what I want to do. So let me get something different. That was darker. What else do I got? Okay, I found it. I was in a spot it would never look. So I got a little bit of black here on my palette. I'm gonna add some water to it. I got this kind of dark brown, super dark, almost black brown here. super watery. I'm just kind of put this on here. Let that run down into all the details. Get too much, just take it off. And this belt has some texture sculpted into it, so I'm brushing with the sculpt. So that when I go back and do my dry brushing, it all falls the same direction. Any brush strokes I may put in here. So I just put it on first and brush it out. You can see it's pretty watery. Just come here and brush it out a little bit. Now, since most of this is water, as this dries, that brown will start to come through again. The first color I put down. It initially looks like it kind of covers this up, but as it dries, it'll start to come through again because this is mostly water. Not a lot of paint in there. This is good because it kind of runs into all the little nooks and crannies and helps kind of clean up any of your lines. Brush it out a little bit. I did seal this before I did this, by the way. Not sure if I mentioned that or not. Got a little bit on the belt loop there. Do my best to keep my overpaint to a minimum. Sometimes I get a little bit of overpaint, but that means when you're painting one color and it gets up on another air surface next to it. Sometimes you just can't avoid it, but for the most part I'm pretty good about cleaning that up. And I don't care if I get anything on the belt buckle right now because we're going to paint that after we're done with the leather. So this is for, this piece is for Tony. Again, he's had a few pieces for me lately. He's one of the clients I did not want to, when I was going through and getting rid of all private commissions about a year ago, maybe over a year ago. He's like, no, I just want to wait because he had a Hellboy for him. And now that I'm furloughed, I got plenty of time to work on these. So in the past 2 months, he's gotten, let's see, so far 3 pieces. Hellboy, Captain America, and Azog. This will be number 4 for him. And I think he's got a few more he's interested in me having do, but I got to get through some other projects for other people first. Okay, so I put that wash on, and as that dries, it just kind of stained it a little bit, darkened everything down a little bit. I'm going to let this dry, I'm going to seal it, and then we're going to come back and start doing some dry brushing to give this a weathered look, or a worn look, I guess. Okay, so I went and sealed that and hit it with a hair dryer for a second, and now we're going to start adding some weathering to this. And so I added a new color to my arsenal, which I never had before, which is raw umber. So this is a great color. I wish I had used this in the previous, excuse me, in the past. It's a great brown. It's got a little bit of green and a little bit of yellow in it. So we're gonna come in here and we're gonna dry brush it super light. Let me get a dropping everything as usual. Let's see, I think I'm just gonna use the same brush. I'm just gonna use it straight. So again, dry brush, you get some paint on, you take most of it off. And you probably won't see anything a whole lot in this first round. I'm gonna add a little yellow to this here in a second. Actually, this is, yeah, I'm not seeing anything right now. That's a little too close to what I got going on. So I'm gonna add just a hair of yellow to this. This is cadmium yellow. Instead of just adding a white to it. So it gives and I'll probably add just a little bit of white on top of this. So now I've got see. Trying to focus. So I got this color right here mixed up. Let's see, am I out of focus? I think I am. I'm zoomed in as much as I can on this lens. So it's kind of a mustardy color. Here, adjust my camera so I can see what I'm doing. This may not be doing what I want to do. We'll see. Can I just go back on top of it? I have something in my mind what I want this to look like, and this isn't it. Oops. I didn't seal that in. Got a fingerprint there. We'll do this and we'll see what it looks like when I'm done. Maybe I should have just done white with that mixed in there. I'll go white on top of this and see what it does. Mixed in. I have to go back and do another wash on top of this. I think I might do. Ah, crap. Got paint on my hands and getting it all over the piece. Hold on. I gotta clean all this off. Where is that coming from? Oh, I got paint on my hand somewhere. It's the beauty of acrylics. You can just damp them and wipe them right off before you seal on it. It comes right off. Gotta be on this hand. Hold on. I'm getting brown fingerprints on everything. I can't see where I have wet paint on my hand. So as long as I take it off before I seal, we're fine. So my client wants me to do snake skin for the boots, so that'll be interesting because I've never done snake skin. So that'll be a learning curve. I anticipate that should take a while. So I gotta go and kind of hand paint all the little scales and stuff. So we're gonna give it a shot. Let's get the belt done first though. Okay, so I'm gonna take this color that I got here. I'm gonna mix a little bit of white in with it. Actually, I'm gonna put a little bit of gray, I think. Neutral gray. Take some neutral gray and kind of mix it into what I have already. It went too yellow. That's not what I want. This will just tone down the yellow a little bit. It'll still be there a little bit, but I'll just tone it down. Yeah, that's looking nice actually. Not sure if you can hear my camera's on autofocus and the lens keeps moving, so I'm not sure you can hear that. Got too much on there. Okay, that's actually kind of what I had in mind right there. And now I'm going to go through, I mean, add a little bit of white to this mix. And just kind of selectively hit some high spots. A little too much right there. Yeah, that looks like a nice worn leather belt. Those look a little shiny in the video because my lights are really harsh. But that's what you need to see what you're doing. It's not the best for video or photos, but okay. And then once I do the final highlight, I'm going to go in and I'll take some a shadow color and do some selective shading, like around the belt buckle and the belt loops and stuff like that, to get this a little more. It's got some nice highlights on it. It's just looking a little flat overall. Okay, so let's take this now and just add a touch of white. I should have bottle that because I ran out of white. Titanium white. Okay, unless you just need the teeniest tiniest amount. So a little white to the side here. My battery's almost dead, so I'm going to switch batteries here anyway. Just adding white to the previous mixture. And we're just going to go hit a few spots. Mainly like the top of the belt. Don't get too much there. And this will dry down a little bit. It's looking pretty good. All right, I'm going to seal this, change batteries, and then we're going to go in and add a couple. Last little step will be to add some shadows here and there, because there's some very subtle, like low spots sculpted into this thing. We're going to bring them out a little bit. Probably do the pigment. Really want this part to look pretty worn. I feel like this may be a little too bright right there, so I'm going to knock it back. Just took a damn Q-tip and wiped some of it off. There's hardly any paint on my brush. I'm actually having to push pretty hard to get it to show up. Alright, so I'm going to seal that and then come back. Alright, so now I'm going to come in. I seal this and I'm going to darken it down a little bit. It's a little brighter than I wanted. So I'm actually just going to do this with some black. And I'm going to use acrylic because I don't want to wait for the oils to dry. So I'm going to take some of this carbon black. And this can basically be dry brushing. I'm going to take some, put it on the tip of my brush, take most of it off, and then we're going to go in here and scrub this in to the shadows and stuff. And this will take some time because I don't want to do it too much too fast. I'm going to go around and add shadows, take around the belt buckle, the belt loops. Just going to give it some more shape. I'm just kind of dabbing it in there. Yeah, not sure if you can see that, but it's giving it some nice shape. It's pretty subtle at first. It takes it a while to build up. And I can add some here and there on the belt. There's some little low areas sculpted in here and there. And this is going to tone it all down a little bit. But I can still see I'm using very little paint because I still want to see through the different shades and stuff I did for all the dry brushing and stuff, so that's why I'm using it very, very dry. Just kind of knock it all down a little bit. It's a little bright for what I had in mind. This section looks pretty good right where I want it. That's why I use shitty brushes, because doing this to a good brush would destroy it in like 5 seconds. And I'm really bad at taking care of my brushes. Now we're starting to look like something. It's usually that last 1 or 2 steps that really kind of brings everything together. I think, all right, now we're getting there. Sometimes it takes a while to get there. And again, there's some very subtle low spots sculpted into the belt, so we're gonna bring those out. Got a little too much there. All right. Take the Q-tip, wipe it off. Too much paint on my brush. I'm gonna hit this little kind of shadow underneath the rear end here a little bit. Okay, I think we're about there on the belt. The leather part, at least. Okay. I think that looks pretty good. Pretty happy with that. So I'm going to seal this, and then we'll work on the belt buckle. Okay, so up next is the belt buckle, and we've decided on a weathered brass look. So I've got, I may have a brass paint. 1 second. I'm going to go see if I got a brass paint. Alrighty, back to this. Yesterday was a hell of a day. Had to get a new phone. I got laid off, finally, from work, so I didn't get any more painting done on this. I was just busy dealing with all that stuff. So anyway, we're going to get back to this, and we're going to work on the belt buckle. I was initially trying to use this Model Masters brass, but it doesn't hand brush very well. It's too thin. So I'm going to try a different technique. I'm going to start off with brushing some steel on this, because we wanted this to be a weathered kind of brass look. So I'm going to base coat it in steel and then dry brush a steel-ish color on top. So hopefully by doing that, it'll give me the weathered look I want. So I'm just going to put some of this on here. So this is the Vallejo Metal Colors steel. So what I wanted to get done yesterday, I did not get done. It's like I'm a day behind on this now. I could use that Model Masters brass, but I'd have to mask this off, and I don't want to do that. Just gonna do it this way. Luckily this is sculpted very well, so the hand brushing will be pretty easy. And then we'll seal this, and then come back with a brass-ish looking color. Actually, I have a color in mind. Let's see my exposure. Actually, my exposure looks pretty good. I'm using my DSLR like I mentioned earlier, so I can control the exposure and just keep it. So I have always been using my cell phone, but it constantly is changing the exposure automatically, and it's really kind of frustrating. So at least with my DSLR, I can set the exposure and it just stays the same. So I'll probably just do that from now on. Oops, I got a little paint on the leather. Take it off. You can see after I sealed that belt, that looks really good. You can see all that kind of shading I went in and did. Pops out. Okay. So there's that. Should we get underneath everything? All the edges. Okay. Just like that. Actually, I can just hit this with a hair dryer and dry brush it on top of it. I need to clean up the brush. Okay, so now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, where'd it go? Oh, I thought I had some. I'm looking for a gold, actually. Actually, this might work. Oh, nice. Old gold. This is Vallejo liquid old gold. It's a nice color. I'm going to dry brush this on here. Super light, because we don't want to get this paint on anything else around it. That's pretty much give me what I wanted. I think that'll do it. Maybe just a little bit more fur. And there you go. Pretty simple. Weathered brass. So we'll seal that, and then we'll move on to the boots. And that's going to be challenging because we want somebody to try to do snake skin. So we're going to go seal that, and then we'll work on boots. Okay, so boots, snakeskin boots. So this is kind of my reference here. I'm not sure it's showing up really well on the camera, but this is what we're going to go for. So luckily, always, well, no, luckily, unluckily, all we see on the kit is the toe part. So I think what I need to do first is I'm going to spray kind of get a base layer first of these kind of bright brown colors, and then we're going to go in real delicately with a fine brush and kind of emulate the snake skin pattern. We'll see if that works. Again, it has to be like, we have to give the sense of snake skin. So, sorry, I'm getting texts from people about job leads. So I've got a bunch of people looking out for me because they know I got laid off yesterday, so they're giving me job leads. Alrighty, so we're gonna mix up kind of a, I don't know. Let's just start painting. Let's see what we come up with. So I have my palette over here, and I'll mix up a couple brown tones, brownish tones. So I think we're gonna start off with some. What is this? Where's that? Burnt umber. Some burnt umber. Let's go put right here. I'm gonna add a little yellow to that and see what we get. Maybe 50-50 of those two colors. Let's see what we come up with. Because if I get a base coat, then I can go in there and do some shading on top of that, and then kind of do the snake skin pattern on top of that. That's actually pretty good right there. So I kind of got this color mixed over here. I'm going to add a touch of white to it. Yeah, that's pretty good right there. Because that'll dry down. Darker once it dries. So let's base coat them in this. I'm not going to worry about the soles. Those will get painted a different color. And these boots have a strap on them, so I'm not sure if I should do those in, maybe I do those in a different, just a solid leather. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Do the main part of the boot, snake skin, and then do the straps a solid leather to complement it. So you got these straps that come across the top here. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Tony has been super awesome. He's giving me suggestions, but basically he's like, whatever you think. So those are the best clients because you kind of let your creativity just go. I think you'll find that most artists do their best work when you just kind of let them do their thing. Obviously, if you're paying for something, you want to make sure you get what you want. But typically, you hire an artist because you like their work, how they do things. So one thing I noticed is that I didn't mix up those paints really, really well, and it's actually kind of giving me a nice effect. Some random tones. Got bigger brush to smooth that out. Where's the one I just... If I take 2 coats of this, I didn't water it down, I'm just using it straight. So I kind of just get it on there, and then I go back and smooth out the brush strokes so they're all in the same direction. And it just helps hide them. Okay. I'm going to put a little bit of water in this. I just add a little bit of water to the paint mix my palette so that when I go back and do this again, it just kind of helps smooth things out a little bit. Pretty good. Once this dries, I'll seal it. And then I'm going to go in and add a little, according to my reference, just some kind of shading to this. And the snake pattern is kind of a darker brown. And then on top of that, I can do like a glaze or something to kind of get it all to blend in a little bit. Have to freehand the snake pattern, which will be interesting. Okay, so that's kind of like the base tone right there. Need to let this dry for a few minutes before I can seal it. And this stuff I just kind of let dry. I don't hit it with a hairdryer, I just kind of let it do its own thing, especially when I don't water it down. I usually don't force dry it, I just let it do its thing. It just takes it doesn't take too long, 5-10 minutes. Make sure we got everything covered well. Okay. All right, hold that dry. I'm going to seal it, and then we'll come back. I wanted to show you something I just did. So I took a little burnt umber, burnt umber, and I added it to that first color, and I just kind of mixed it in. So I was looking at my reference, and the boots have this kind of like, I don't know, like grain in it. You know, leather usually has a grain. And so what I did is I just kind of put it in there, and I just took it on my brush, and I purposely wanted some brush strokes in there to give me some variation in the tone. So it's looking a little messy right now, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and seal that. This boot actually looks really good. It's just a little dark, but I got some grain in there now in the leather, whatever this is called, snake skin. And I'm going to seal this. I'm going to come back with a little bit of the first color on top. So I'm starting to activate this again. I don't want to do that. And I'm going to come back in with the other color. I'm fighting it now. I should just left it alone. And come back over this and try to add to this kind of look. But now I've kind of screwed it up, so I went back and tried to touch something up, and I lifted the paint. That's why you seal things, so you don't lift the paint from your previous step like I just did here. So I gotta try to blend that in. Actually, that may be a happy accident, because it may make the toes look worn. So let's try something here. See, usually my accidents turn into happy accidents. Kind of like the way that's looking. It's making it look worn. I'm going to do that over here too. I'm not sure if this is showing up in camera. It looks a little dark. Up my exposure a little bit. Now I took that down too far. I went back down to the original color. I'll get there. So I think I need to seal this. And then come back and do some more of this. I'm getting the look I want. I just think I just worked it too much, because I didn't seal it before I started doing this, and so I reactivated the paint underneath. Yeah, so I need to go seal this and kind of revisit it. So I'm going to do that. Alright, so the first thing I'm doing for these snake skin boots is I'm just going in and kind of replicating this diamond pattern using some burnt umber. And it's not super neat right now, but it's okay, because I was looking at my reference, and I'm not going to go in and like draw individual scales. I'm going to try to just give the illusion of scales. So I'm just taking this with a liner brush. And let's see if I can focus. So as far as it zooms in on this lens. And I'm just kind of stippling a diamond pattern with some paint that's been reduced a little bit. So I do one down. I was just looking at my reference, and it's, so they got like one down the middle here. I'm just going to do one on camera because this is a pretty slow process. I'm dabbing so it doesn't look like a painted line, just so it has some discrepancies in it. Okay, so I got a little mess up right here. He's been sealed pretty good, so I can go in there and wipe anything off that I don't like. These boots will take me several hours to do, but they should look good. They should look good in the end. So basically, that's it. Kind of like that. And as it dries down, I go back over it again to kind of just intensify it a little bit. It's going to look really weird for a while until I get to the very last stage. I'm going to go back in the very end and add some bright highlights to some of these scales. And then I'll probably do a wash or a glaze over everything to tie it all together, so it doesn't look just painted on, because it's going to look that way for a while. So just like that. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll come back. All right, back to work on this. I'm going to take a little break from the boots because I just had to deal with some stuff the past few days, getting laid off and trying to go into... I finally got laid off from my job, which I knew was going to happen. It sucks, but it is what it is. So I've been kind of put everything on hold for a couple days to kind of figure stuff out, and I got to work on getting a new website put together, web gallery, all that stuff, so I can show potential employers my work, because I haven't had a website in like 10 years, because I've been in the corporate world for 10 years, and I'm back to square one doing all that stuff. So in the meantime, I'm going to concentrate on painting and working on my resume and all that stuff. So I'm going to switch gears to the base, because I can get this done relatively quick, and I want to feel like I've accomplished something. So sometimes when I'm painting or building something, I'm having a hard time with something. Like the boots are just tedious, and they're going to look good when I'm done, but it's just getting there is going to be tough. So I sometimes will switch gears to something I know how I want to do it and how to get there relatively quickly. So I'm going to switch to the base. So this is just in primer gray right now. We're going to do the headstand the same way, and I'm going to use my craft paints. I'm going to start going in with this these paints. I'm just going to start kind of dabbing on some of these paints. This is just the burnt umber. I'm doing these because these are pretty translucent, and I want to see all the tones underneath. And I can, so instead of airbrushing this, I'm going to go in here and dab this on. So I don't want just gray. I want some undertones to the stone, kind of like maybe like a desert rock theme. So we're going to go in here, and you can see that this paint is pretty translucent, which is kind of one of the nice things about this paint, is that it's, sometimes you want a really translucent paint, sometimes you want a really opaque paint, and in this case I want a translucent paint, so these will work perfect for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, I'm going to stipple on several tones. I'm going to use some browns, some yellows, maybe some greens in here, and I'm going to get some just random variations in tone. And the stippling actually allows me to get paint down in all the grooves. Sometimes with these bases that are like all rocky like this, it's really hard to get paint down in all the recesses with an airbrush. So a lot of times just doing it with a brush is much easier. It's not very fast, but just no big deal. But like I can see a little bit of the resin coming through in some of these areas. It's no big deal. I'm gonna cover them up, but it's fine because it's yellow. I'm gonna put some yellows on this anyway. But sometimes it's just hard to get it paint in there with an airbrush without really flooding the surrounding areas with paint. So sometimes this brush is just easier. You can go in there and kind of jab it in there like this. So I'm going to do this to both pieces with this color, and then when I'm done with that, I'll come back. Okay, so I finished that on the base and the headstand, and I sealed it with some matte coat. Now I'm going to do a wash of Starship wash, enamel wash. And this is just going to help get down in all the grooves and stuff, because I noticed that I still didn't get paint down in all the areas. So this will just darken all the recesses that much more. So I'm putting it on. This is actually one of my favorite washes. Then just dabbing the excess off. And you can see here, it's pretty subtle, but it stays down in all the nooks and crannies. It just washes down in there. And this is an enamel, so I put it on very liberally. I just kind of slop it on there. And then, while it's still damp, I just blot it off. And I'll just add one more layer of tone. More so in the nooks and crannies and stuff. And this, you gotta be careful, because even though this is an enamel and I just sealed this, it will kind of reactivate the sealer. So you don't want to dab too much. So like 1 or 2, 3 dabs, and then don't touch it again, because you'll just pull off your previous paint. So just be careful with it, that you don't reactivate the matte coat too much. So you just gotta be gentle with it when you go to take off the excess, but it's a pretty quick process, because this has some solvent in it, and it will soften that matte coat. So I just gotta be careful. And if you do take some of it off, like I took some of it off here a second ago, just don't worry about it if it's not a very bright highlight, because it's going to get dry brushed anyway. So yeah, shouldn't be a problem. Notice my white bounces off a little bit here. We can just switch that real quick. I don't think so. It's looking a little blue in the picture, but I'm using my DSLR again. We'll see how this turns out for this video. Yeah, so I'm going to do this to both of these, to both of the base and the headstand. And then after this, we'll seal it again, and then we'll move on to stippling a couple more tones on there before we do the final highlighting and stuff. So I just do a little part at a time. I don't do the whole thing, because it's very messy and the enamels are very sticky. So hopefully by the time I'm done with the top, it's pretty dry and I can handle it to do the bottom. Just a little bit of time. And you do go through, I'm really liberal with all my materials. I go through a lot of materials, so I'm really liberal with it. But I think this bottle, I've had this bottle for a while. This may be, I'll probably use up this bottle of this wash on this piece. But yeah, so we're going to do that. We're going to add the wash, dab it off, and then we'll come back. Alright, so that dried, we went and sealed it, and now we're going to add some more tones to this. I've got over here in my palette to the side. I'm not sure if you guys can see it. I'm going to start with like the kind of a, I want to lighten this up a little bit now, but I don't want to do too much, so I'm going to add some of this. This is Cocoa Bean. Oh, nice color. And we're kind of stipple this on, not so, a little lighter than the previous color. So the Deco Art American multi-surface paint is a little thicker, has a little more pigment than the other colors. There are differences in these paints as far as like pigmentation goes. This has got a little more pigment in it. Where's the brush I was using before? This is not it. I like to stay with the same brush, if I can find it. Where'd it go? Actually, I'm going to go with a bigger brush. So I got these. Nah, I don't like that one. Where did that damn brush go? Okay, I guess we'll just use this one. That's not what I was using, but it'll work. Alright, so we're going to put some of this on. Pretty dry, actually. Come in here and start doing this number. Maybe a little dry brushing, a little stippling. Maybe I'll stipple on the flat spots where he stands, and I'll dry brush the rest of it, because I don't want to fill in the areas that I worked on before. that. You gotta stipple the flat areas, and I'll dry brush the other areas. Start bringing up some highlights. I don't want this to be brown in the end, but I want it to have the brown undertones. So we're gonna do this, and then I'll probably mist on a very light coat of like a mid-tone gray. Get my lights really close. I can have a brightness exposure for my camera. Started bringing out some of these details. So I'm just going to do this to both pieces and then seal it and then go from there. Okay, so I went and sealed that. Now I added some yellow to my previous mix. I kind of got this light tan where I dry brushed this piece, you can see there. So I'm going to dry brush this, build up another highlight, and then I'll probably go in and do some white on top of this, and then I think I'm going to mist on just a very like a semi-translucent gray tone, and that should bring it to the gray I want. And then after that, I think we'll see how it looks, because after the airbrushing, that'll kind of flatten it all down again. I'll have to go in and kind of hit the shadows again, but see, I'm building up all these brown highlights first before I go to a gray tone, just so it's not a gray color. I want these brown undertones. So again, I'm just kind of using this paint straight. I'm not diluting it or anything, just getting the high spots. And it goes on and it looks pretty bright, but it dries down quite a bit. So that's why I work up slowly. That's why I do so many dang steps. You gotta let it dry for a few minutes to see what you're gonna get. So by doing this and doing a semi-transparent gray on top of it, you should be able to see all the stuff underneath it. At least that's the plan. We'll see if it works. Okay, so I'm not even going to seal this. I'm just going to go ahead and add some white to this mix. Right behind it. There it is. So we can add some white to this. I got this really bright tone. It's not quite white, but it's pretty close. I'm just going to use the flat part of my brush here. They're yelling at my dog because he's on the couch. You're not supposed to be on the couch. So now we're starting to see some really nice details in this piece. Just using the flat part of my brush so I don't get down in all the crevices, because we want to keep that. Yeah, there's no breaks, dude. You're like full on professional soccer player. Take a break because I got a blister. Seriously? My son wants to take a break from his soccer because he's got a blister, and we just signed him up to a competitive team, which was not cheap. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. And I'm just kind of going top down. Got a little too much on there, it's okay. Let's wipe it off. So we kind of got this sandstone look. To this piece. And just using the flat part of the brush, kind of going top down. Just hitting the high spots. We'll dry brush the top part. You're not going to see it, but that's where the head sits. Now I'm going to go back in with just some white, pure white. Kind of repeat this step. Again, just the flat part of the brush. And these are the craft paint, so they're pretty translucent, pretty transparent. Just really hitting these top parts here. I'm going to do a very, very light coat of a semi-transparent gray on this because I really like what I've got here. I just don't want it brown. I want to kill all the work I've done. So as I lose paint on the brush, I work on the bottom side a little bit so I don't get so bright down there. That is a shadow area. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Okay, just like that. Now you go turn my air compressor on. Be right back. And I'm not even going to seal this. I'm just going to go ahead and spray right on top of what I got here because if I screw up, I can't take it off anyway. So I think for this, I'm going to do, I'm going to use a warm, transparent, don't want cool. And I want, let's see, use the GarageKits.us colors. How bright do I want to go? That looks about right. Maybe a number 4, and then I'll probably do a little dry brushing on top of this. We'll see. So this is semi-transparent warm gray number 4. Again, I want to do this super, super light, so I'm backed off quite a bit. I'm just going to kind of mist this on. Just really want to shift the color. And the further I back off, the less of this will get in the nooks and crannies. I'll hit the tops of everything. A little bit at a time. Okay, we're getting there. It's looking a little brighter in camera than it is in person. Okay, I'm getting there. Starting to see what I want to see. I think after this, I'm going to go in with some transparent tones into the shadows. I think we might have it then. So I got this kind of nice sandstone looking. It's really blue in the camera. I have to do a color correction. It's not this blue in person. Okay, so that's pretty good right there. So let's put this away. And then I'm going to get some There's a really good color I like. It's the transparent oil. There it is. I'm not sure how much of this I have. It's just about out. Crap. Really like this color. Transparent smoke. That'd be good. I don't want black. Transparent smoke. I'm just gonna add to my cup. And this has a little bit of green in it. So I'm just gonna kind of come in here and hit some of these recesses a little bit. It's a little light. Bring out some of these details a little bit. Might have to go with some black. This might not be quite as dark as I want. We got a big area, just back off so it's a softer shadow. The tight shadow, get in tight. Transparent are great because you see all your work underneath them. Kind of hitting some of these little edges. It's kind of free flowing, nothing too concrete. Add a little shadow right there. I'm not sure if you can see it. When I add a shadow to an edge like this, I spray it into the edge. I don't spray straight down because I don't want to get as little paint on the highlight as possible. Just spray into it. It's not there, I think. Well, that's kind of what I was going for. Just get some of these little deep recesses on this guy. I'm going to add just a little bit of transparent black to this. Right color I'm working with. Not much, just a few drops. So I just added like 2 drops to the transparent black to this transparent smoke. I'm just going to darken it down just a little bit. Oh, I'm not even in frame. Sorry. I'm working up here. Out of frame, sorry. I'm just kind of hitting some of these. Anywhere it looks a little flat, I'm just kind of adding a shadow. Oh, crap. I dropped it a little bit there. Kind of just missed the underside here a little bit. Maybe I got a little too heavy with my dry brushing. All right, again, a little bit at a time. Go slow. Got some a little transparent nicotine yellow to this. Mist that on top a little bit. Add a little transparent nicotine yellow. This a little bit. Once I'm done with this, I will go back in and do a little more dry brushing. Okay. Back and forth, back and forth. Now what I think I want to do is I want to get this still a little too brown for my taste, so I'm going to get some more of my airbrush before this dries. I'm going to mix up a kind of a gray tone real quick. Put some black. I'm just gonna mix up a tone over here off the side. It's too dark. Black is a very powerful color. I'm gonna mix just a little bit of my warm tone into this gray, so it's a warm gray. It's got a warm kind of gray mixed up here. I'll really take a lot of the paint off my brush. This is how I do it. I just play till I get what I want. The advantage of using my camera, other than my phone, is that when my phone rings, I don't have to stop recording. Okay. Again, just kind of using the flat part of the brush. If I use mostly the flat part of the brush, I won't affect any of that shadows I've just put in, because the bristles won't get down in there. I think I have to go in here with some pastels to really do what I want to do. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to seal this. And then we use some pastels. To get really the shadows I want. The shadows aren't looking the way I want. Everything else is looking pretty good. I just think I need to get in there some pastels and really kind of hit the crevices. It's just looking flat to me. It is not what I want. Alright, so I'm going to seal this, and then hopefully in the last step I'll get this knocked out the way I want. It's just looking a little flat, so I'm not digging it all the way yet. For the most part, it's the color I was looking for, kind of the sandstone color. It's just flat. So I'm going to seal this, and we'll come back and with some pastels. Okay, so I'm gonna go in with some MIG Pigment blacks. This is Black Smoke. It's actually one of my favorite pigments to use. I already did this part. You can see I've already added a lot of shape to the shadows and stuff, so I think that looks pretty good. So I just take this. This is actually one of my favorite pigment brushes. It's kind of got a short stiff end and it's got a soft end. And what I'll do is I'll take the pigment in the short end and I'll kind of dab it where I want. And then I take the soft end and kind of even it out a little bit. And I'm pretty heavy-handed with the pigments, but just really going in here and getting around the shadows and stuff. So if you do it right, you should still be able to see kind of the tones underneath these. And then when I seal this, we'll lose a little bit of it, but just enough to where it'll be where I want it. But I like the pigments because I can really pinpoint where I want the dark shadows much easier than an airbrush. It's easier for me at least. So this is typically my last step when I'm doing something like this. I don't let it take too long. I'm just kind of, again, hitting the real deep crevices. And then I can use a soft brush to blend them out. Kind of pan up a little bit. Kind of put some in there with the soften with the other end. So this brush is really good because it makes this step relatively quick because I can do that and I can flip the brush around real quick and blend it. It's a makeup brush. Makeup brushes are amazing tools for modeling. I got a lot of looks when they go down the makeup aisle and I'm buying brushes. But you can still see all the tones I put on the transparent oil with a little bit of green in there, the transparent yellow. It's all there. It's just subtle. Just going in and pumping up the shadows a little bit. I think after this step, it's going to look pretty good. It'll be a nice contrast against Wolverine with those blue jeans and the white shirt. It'll be nice. He'll pop off for this base pretty good. So you got to think about your subject too, as far as what the base should look like. You don't want him to blend in. You want him to pop off. So once I'm done with this, I'll put him on the boots aren't done yet. I'm still in the very beginning phases of the boots. I was meant to get the boots done last Wednesday, and then I got laid off, so that didn't happen. So if anyone watching this knows anyone who needs a photographer / painter / visual merchandising communication specialist, let me know, because that's what I do. Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, this whole coronavirus has really screwed everyone's life up. I mean, the company I was working for, I worked for Penny's. We were struggling pretty hardcore, and then this hit. So, hopefully, I really hope they make it, but I don't know. If the management keeps doing what they've been doing, I don't know. And that's the senior management. They're, as usual, they're out for themselves, not the company. So I'm gonna come up here and add little shadows around these little kind of flat areas too. And I don't have much pigment on here, but I can use what's on here to kind of scrub in some shapes. I try not to blow the pigments if I can because they get everywhere. I mean, they get on my floor and they get on my feet. and they get all over the house. They're just really messy. I think that's looking pretty good. This is kind of more of what I had in mind. It's this last step. That kind of brings it all together. So anywhere I think it's a little flat, I'll go in and add a little bit. But now I got some nice shape in here, I think. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to seal this, and then I'm going to put him on the base from where he is and see what it looks like. Okay, so I've been working these boots here for the past hour or so, and I've got a wet palette here mixed up with a bunch of different tones. So I'm just going in here and basically emulating snake skin, and I'm just taking the a lining brush with a relatively, I'm not going to record this whole process because this, where I've gotten so far, it's already taken me like 2 hours. But I'm just going in here and I'm just dabbing this on here. You know, I kind of made a couple stripes of darker, you know, we'll call them snake scales, and I'm dabbing it kind of like this flat just to kind of emulate it. You know, we're not going to paint every single scale, but we're just going to emulate the look of snake skin. And it's looking a little stripey right now, the patterns, but I'm going to go back in and kind of blend them together. So I'm just doing this. I think this is the right way to do it. I've never done snake skin before, so this is a new thing for me. I think I'm heading in the right direction. So it's getting there. It's just looking like stripe, 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 and I need to kind of get rid of that. But I think this is the kind of like the base, and then I'm gonna go back in with some of these other tones, and I don't know. But this is where I'm at right now. I'm just going in here. I got this paint over here in my wet palette. I got a bunch of tones mixed up. This is kind of a bright tan. I also think when we're done with the snake skin part, I'm going to do a light misting of a clear tone on top, kind of help bring it all together, I think. And then I'm going to hand paint the little leather straps on top, a different type of leather. Not going to be snake skin. They'll be like a strap leather. But I think I'm heading in the right direction. It's starting to look like something. It's just very slow. Got a little water over here because of my wet palette's. But this is kind of what I've been doing the past hour or so. These boots will take me a good portion of the day. And hopefully they'll look like snakeskin when I'm done. I don't know. Who knows? We'll see. And I'm kind of cleaning up these little diamonds I did at the very beginning, kind of cleaning up those edges a little bit by overlapping this color on top. So that's like one boot after that step. So I'm going to do that one, and then I'll go from there. Alright, so after doing all those little white scales, we're calling them, I've gone in with a really small brush and a little bit of burnt sienna, and I've kind of just blended in, done some blending here between the shapes and stuff, and now we're starting to look like snakeskin boots. Not quite there yet, but we're getting there. So I think what I'm going to do next is I need some more scaly looking things between these diamonds. So I'm going to go back to my other color I had. I'm going to brighten it up just a little bit. I got a really tiny brush here. I'm going to put these on, and then I'm going to go back in on top of them and blend in. Actually, just go back to that other brush because it'll work really well. I'm going to go back in and blend on top of them. I'm going to come in here and just might put some bright looking scales like that. Again, we're just giving the impression of snakeskin here. We're not painting individual scales, but once it's done, this should look like this should give the impression of snakeskin. And I'm also going to take these and put some on top of this area here and blend this in a little bit more. I guess I was looking a little stripy, but now we're getting towards not looking so stripy. I think we're actually in the home stretch here. It's too much. I didn't seal this before I started this step. I probably should have, but just kind of like that. There's a lot of yellow and white in this mix. I will have to seal out this step so I can continue blending in with that burnt sienna. It's looking good. So I'm going to do this, seal it, and then make it some just straight up white. Yeah, it's actually looking pretty impressive from the viewing distance. It actually looks really, really good. I'll do this one boot on camera because this part actually doesn't take too long. So I've got everything covered. I'm just kind of blending things in it now. Setting very few of these bright spots. Again, at this scale, it's just you're just giving the impression of snakeskin. Focusing on what I'm doing. Okay. Yeah, after this I'm going to go back and with just some straight up white. can see here I'm not covering as much here. I just want a few of these little scales here and there. I've got this on a wet palette. I gotta go back and get some water every once in a while. Never really used a wet palette before, so just drying it on my brush because it's a little liner brush. It dries out pretty quick. I'm sure you guys can hear all that auto-focusing going on. Sorry about that. Eventually I'll figure something out. The thing about this camera is that even though it's a professional DSLR, there's no audio input for it, which is kind of stupid. Okay. I'm going to go seal this and then come back and just do some white. Alrighty, so I sealed that here with the hairdryer real quick. Now I'm just going to come in here and we kind of do the same areas again with just pure white and just very few little spots. And then I'll seal it one more time and then go back in with the burnt sienna and do some blending and stuff to tie it all together. Really need to get some wet palette paper. This parchment paper doesn't seem to be letting enough water through. Too much. And that's why we seal it. And this white's going to get toned down in the next step, so it won't be white. Pretty much. So I think after doing this, I think I got a couple ideas on if I ever need to do this again. Maybe some better ways to approach it, but for a first attempt, I'm pretty happy with how this looks. You can see what it's going to look like now when I'm done. And the key to it is using a tone on top of all these little scales and going in and doing all the shading. That's what the key is. Once I started doing that, I could see what this is going to look like. So I'll do this, I'll seal it, and I'll show you what I do on the very last step of this part, and then I'll hand paint the rest of the straps, and then the buckles, and then the soles will be last. And then we'll have the boots done today. And then probably work on getting the claws done, since those have been base coated and dried really well in the gloss black, which isn't really super glossy. It's kind of it's between semi-gloss and gloss, which is perfect for the look I want. Really was hoping to have this thing done last week, but other things happened. You know what she was doing outside? Going potty. But you know what she was doing? Going potty. And your dog's like growling at her, like, what are you doing? Why are you crazy going potty outside? I can just go potty inside. Alright, we're almost done with this part. Okay, I'm gonna go seal that. I'm gonna seal this, and then I'm going to come back and do some blending. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is I got some burnt sienna here in my palette, and I take it on my brush, and use a different brush than I used last time, and I get most of it off. I'm basically gonna go in here, and we're gonna just add some shading to this skin. I go right on top. This is too much. You can tell right away. I do it pretty dry. Gonna knock down the white and kind of blend this all together. Trick is getting just the right amount of paint on your brush. I'm using this almost like I would an oil, but I don't want to wait for oils to dry, so I'm doing it with the acrylics. I put on pretty dry, and then just kind of rub it on the surface and smooth it out. This is kind of what ties it all together. I was finding out earlier. And I hit under here pretty good, the shadow. Blend it up. If I do too much, I just get a little Q-tip and there. Now we're starting to look like boots, finally. Hit the shadows a little harder. And I've already done, you can see I've added some shading already, so I'm going to kind of go over that again, and I'll just accentuate it a little bit more. That's exactly the color I was looking at and thinking of in my head, so. We're basically just adding a little kind of wash on top of this, but I'm not washing it, I'm using the paint straight, kind of buffing it on there and getting some shading and weathering all done at the same time. Yeah, that's looking pretty good, I think. So I'm going to do this, I'll seal them, come back and work on the straps. Okay, so we went and sealed the snake skin, and I think it looks pretty damn good after we did all the shading and everything. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and paint the other leather straps. They come up underneath the jeans, and they actually go underneath the boot. So, actually, no, I take that back. I'm going to do the, I'm going to paint the soles first. Now that I look at how this is put together. So I'm just going to put in a, I think we'll do a, that's not the right color, it's not dark enough. I want this. I think that's the color I want. Let's see. It's a burnt umber too, but it's about the same color. Yeah, it's fine. We're going to do burnt umber for the soles, and then we'll add a little bit of weathering to them. So I'm just going to base coat these with the brush, and then we'll seal it, and then we'll do a little slight weathering. We're not really weathering this guy up too much, but we don't want him to look all flat. So when I say weather, maybe just do a little dry brushing to bring out the details in the sculpt. It usually takes 2 coats of this to do this right here. It'll be a nice color to go along with the color snakeskin we got going on. Add a little bit of water to this so brush strokes smooth out a little bit. Not a whole lot. Q-tip, I get a little clean up on the snakeskin part that I don't want. So I'm going to do this and we'll come back. Alright, so I base coated the sole in that burnt umber, or raw umber, and then kind of mixed up a darkish brown here for the strap. And now I got a kind of a highlight color here. I'm just going to come in here and dry brush this on to bring out the details in the sculpt. It's kind of a grayish brown color. See if that gives me what I want. Not really. So I'm going to take that off. It's not doing what I want it to do. Excuse me. I need a little more white in there, I think. Too gray. I'm not digging it. So I'm going to mix up a little different color here. I'm over here in my wet palette, which is a money mess right now. Okay, I think that's what I want. That was not the color I wanted. Still not the color. Too much paint on there. There we go. That's what I want. Just using the top part of my flat part of the brush. I'm not going to hit the soles with this color. I'm going to do that with a different color, I think. So I kind of want a different, darker color leather for these straps to kind of make them pop off the snake skin a little bit. Phone is ringing like buzzing like crazy right now. Oh, it's my buddy Floyd. 1 second. Oh, please. Ugh. Okay, yeah. I'm just getting text messages from Floyd. I hope this video is in focus. My camera goes in and out of focus quite a bit as I'm working here. Okay, let's do the other side. Paint the buckles in this little decoration here, and then the boots will be done finally. So it's 2 o'clock now. I started working on these at let's see, when did I start working on these boots? At 8 o'clock this morning. So I took a little about 20-minute break for some lunch. So these have taken most of the day, and that was with some work on them before I started the day. So the boots alone have taken me, I would say, a day. The boots were a day. Okay, alrighty. So now I got this here. I'm going to mix up a little tone for the soles. I'm gonna kind of got a muddy mess over here in my wet palette, but that's okay. I'm just kind of blending all these paints together to get colors that I want. I don't want black. That's what I want. Problem is I got a little bit of black mixed in with my white, so I'm getting gray, which I don't want. I think that's what I want there. I'm going to kind of hit this toe here pretty good. Yeah, we're just about there. My client, I sent a picture of the base to my client, and I hadn't started working on the. Oh, I forgot I did the base this morning, so the base took me a couple hours. So the boots didn't take me a full day. I'll say 3/4 of a day.